Mr. President, and good afternoon, colleagues. I rise to present Amendment 1. This, like other parts of the bill, is an amendment about education, kind of in the same vein as the violence prevention and suicide prevention education. And I'm hoping that it is something that we can all get behind. There's no mischief within it, and I'll explain what I mean. So I pulled this from Texas. Texas also passed a comprehensive school safety bill after the tragic mass shooting at Robb Elementary in Uvalde. And as part of that legislation, which was HB 3 in 2023, they mandated education about safe storage of firearms to be made available to all parents and guardians of children enrolled in Texas public schools. So through that legislation, they started Keep 'em Safe Texas. I put a flyer on your desk so you can see what kind of sort of educational materials Keep 'em Safe Texas, which is within the Texas School Safety Center, would make available on school websites to parents. So the only difference in Amendment 1 and the law in Texas, well, there's actually one big difference is that Texas actually mandates safe storage. Understand that's not something that the General Assembly is interested in doing at this time. So through Texas's law, they educate, through Keep 'em Safe Texas, they also educated about the safe storage laws around minors to the schools. That is obviously not a part of this because we do not have any safe storage laws around minors laws here in Georgia. And the only other difference is that I wrote it with the appropriate entities with what we have in Georgia law for school safety and existing Georgia law, and of course under HB 268. So you'll see that it references the Georgia Department of Education and the Georgia Emergency Management and Homeland Security agencies. These are the entities charged within our law and in this legislation with overseeing the new requirements of HB 268. So it's simply an education piece, like I said, not unlike the violence and suicide prevention pieces of 268. I view it as a no downside way to try to make our kids in our schools a bit safer. There's no penalties, there's no mandates to any families or restrictions or burdens on any gun ownership. So I view it very much as a friendly amendment. I think it's a win-win for our state, and I think that's why they did it in Texas. Now, I know most of the time I'm up here yapping about my safe storage bill and putting, the misdemeanor provisions in place that I have in that legislation. As I said already, but it bears repeating, this is a no mischief contained educational piece that I think, again, is a win-win. And I am happy to answer any questions about it.
You do have a couple questions, Senator. Recognize Senator from the 22nd.
Thank you, Mr. President. The General Lady yield?
Of course.
One of the things you mentioned here and you put on our desk about Texas, can you kind of go into why it's so important that actually the state of Texas and their view as far as the Second Amendment is concerned, that would be a good model for us to actually kind of follow too?
Well, I think that's a great question, Mr. Leader, and I thank you for it. Look, I mean, none of us, I don't believe, would regard Texas as anything other than a very pro-Second Amendment state. So this is simply after Uvalde, Robb Elementary, they are thinking along the exact same lines as the Speaker of the House and Rep. Persinger and everyone else that has worked so hard on HB 268. And as part of that legislation, they said, look, one of the things we can do is just, like we do with many, many, many other things, our public schools are a good way to get out civic education in sort of an efficient manner. And here it's even more appropriate because we're talking about children, right? So what this deals with specifically, HB 268 and Amendment 1, is the safety of kids, right? And of course, by association, everyone else in a school building. But we're really talking about children. So I think that their way of adding, Texas's way of adding education about safety around weapons for children into their comprehensive school safety bill after Uvalde is something that's very much worth the serious consideration of this body, Senator from the 22nd. And, you know, like I said, I kind of like the branding they came up with. There is nothing in this amendment that says what the language would be or what would be disseminated. That's all to be decided by DOE in concert with our public safety agencies, right? So this was just kind of an example because that's what they did in Texas. But yes, there's nothing in there about what it would look like or even what it would say exactly, right? But I kind of like how they have the branding of Keep 'em Safe Texas with their two pistols. It's a very Texas branded, Texas culturally appropriate way to make widespread ownership of guns like they have there and certainly like we have here and throughout our country, just more safe, and that's all we really want, right?
Well, Senator Yield, for one other question.
Certainly.
And that would be, one of the things you mentioned was that this is not a mandate of actually any action as such. Can you kind of go into that a little bit further?
Yes,
please?
no, there's no action mandated, there's no penalties. It's just like anything else that would come home with kids, although this would probably just go on the website of each school, right? As I understand it, as I understand how we typically do this sort of thing, when we have said, look, we want parents and guardians to be educated about something through the public schools. My understanding is that's typically a drop down within each school's website. But yeah, no, there's no mandates, no penalties. No one has to do anything or change their behavior one iota as a result. Just like anything else that's simply education-based, the hope is that people will read it and maybe take some steps that they're not taking right now that will make our schools safer, make kids safer, essentially. But if they choose not to or don't want to, they don't have to.
Recognize Senator from the 46.
Thank you. Will Senator Yield?
Of course.
Senator, would you be willing to stand down on this amendment if I would agree to work with you on it as a separate piece of legislation? It's great policy. It makes sense. Every responsible parent or adult needs to keep their farm secure away from children. But I am so concerned that if we change or add to this bill, that it slows down a very important issue that my dream is this goes back across the hall, immediate transmittal, and that they agree and we have moved forward with helping keep our schools safe. And my fear is that despite your good intentions, this slows down that process and potentially creates an impediment. Would you be willing to consider withdrawing that so we can work on this as an independent measure?
Well, thank you for the question, Senator. I'm always, of course, happy to partner with you, one of our most veteran members of the state Senate, and I appreciate your view that this is kind of common sense and doesn't get in the way of anyone's rights around the Second Amendment. Obviously, I view it as part and parcel of what's already in the bill regarding violence and suicide prevention, and note that it would still be an agree. And, but in all honesty, I actually wish I had had time to deal with this a little earlier. So I could have come to you and I could have gone to the author and just with some stuff, with everything going on down here, and with some stuff I had to do with my children, the time got away from me. So that really would have been my intention. So, you know what, let me just say that I'll come and speak with you about it when I get out of the well, and it's certainly something that I would consider partnering with you on.
Thank you so much, Senator. I appreciate your
Thank you.
consideration and your concerns for our children.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I think you got a couple people want to speak on this bill. You don't have a question, do you,
Okay.
Senator from the 41st?
Yeah. Oh.
You want to speak on it? Okay, you don't have any more questions, Senator.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate your consideration, and I yield the well.
I'm sorry, the senator from the 34th it does have her, she had her other light on, but she does want to ask a question.
My bad, I'm
So,
sorry.
no problem.
Does the senator yield?
Yes, I certainly do.
I just have one question. Do you know of any other state that have similar legislation?
Yeah, I mean, as I was explaining earlier, Texas newly did this type of education after the Robb Elementary shooting, which, and I believe that the senator from the 46th mentioned that he thinks, and to my knowledge, I think he's correct, that this is kind of the first school shooting of this type that we have had in Georgia. Frankly, we have been pretty fortunate. We do know that for a number of years, more kids have died in a firearm-related incident or accident than any other cause. So that's part of why I offered it, is because we would like to see that not be the case, right? And so it's really just about keeping people safe. And when I saw that Texas had thought to include it in their legislation, I know that Texas is not a state that's going to make our colleagues here on the other side of the aisle think, oh no, this must be a total gun grabber thing. And that would be my goal, is to say, hey, if a state that's a Second Amendment, pro-Second Amendment as Texas thought this was a good idea, it's worthy of our consideration here in Georgia.
Thank you.
All right, Senator. You have no further questions.
All right, thank you. I yield the well.
Thank you.